What's up, guys? Everything Wild Outdoors here. I just wanted to take a second here to do a little bit of I don't know, a mid-spring, early summer tip here. About 3 years ago, I planted a food plot. It's the first food plot I've ever planted. I had no equipment as far as tractors or heavy equipment or anything like that. So it's basically hand spread seed, some small rototillers, and a lot of elbow grease. So I just want to take a second. This video is going to be about the 5 things I learned from planting my very first food plot. So if you guys are thinking about planting a food plot or have interest in it, hopefully there's some things in this video that will help you guys, and maybe it'll prevent you from maybe falling into some of the mistakes that I made. As you can see, I'm absolutely covered up in buffalo gnats. Would do the whole video out here, but it is bad. But real quick, I'll just sit here and I'll show you guys a food plot. This is a clover alfalfa chicory mix. As you can see, this is its 3rd year. Really nice luscious clovers, chicories, alfalfas. That's all I got, guys, for as far as a mower is concerned. This plot can't be accessed by a big ag equipment, so it's a weed eater. I think a lot of people get the misconception that you need this big fancy equipment to plant a food plot, and that's not true. Obviously it helps and saves you a lot of time, but you can get it done with a little bit of elbow grease and a weed eater. So again, videos, 5 things I learned from planting my first food plot. I hope you guys enjoy. What's up, guys? So if you're watching this, you're probably considering planting a food plot, so I hope that there's some information you can take from this that'll benefit you. So let's just get it right into it. What did I learn? Number 1, if you don't plant it this year, you're probably never going to plant it. And what I mean by that is, as outdoorsmen, it's really easy to get caught up in being motivated by the current season. So what I mean by that is, if it's mid-November, the rut's rolling, I just see a big deer or whatever, or maybe I'm not seeing any deer at all, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, you know what, next year I'm going to hang more stands and I'm going to do better. I'm going to watch my trail cameras more. I'm going to plant my first food plot. Whatever it may be for you, you have all this grand list of things that you're wanting to do. Come springtime, turkeys start gobbling, mushrooms pop, crappies are spawning, and you don't think about deer hunting anymore. And that's really what it comes down to, is you have to have the ability to be self-motivated to want to better your property or better your situation to shoot a big deer or mature deer, or whether it's maybe even just having the ability to shoot a doe on a consistent basis. Whatever your motivation is for you, you need to dig deep down and be able to summon some of that drive out of season. So that's the first hardest thing to do. And I think that a lot of people talk about it. It's like, I'm going to plant it, and then next thing you know, they look for reasons not to. Oh, it's too much rain. I'll have to wait till next week, and it's too hot. You just got to do it. At the end of the day, nothing's going to grow unless you put seed in the ground. So you just got to go out there and get after it. That's the first thing I learned. So I always tell people, just if you're even remotely considering planting a food plot, plant it this year. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like right now, we're in midsummer. Plant something in the fall. You can plant a clover that may not be the best, as far as hunting it in the fall, but in the spring it's going to, really take off. So there's still options to plant in the fall. So even if you're watching this video right now, there's still time. Don't be discouraged, and just go out there and get after it. The second thing, it does not take the fancy equipment that you think. I think a lot of people have the idea of, and I've talked a little bit about this in my first video, is that you want to have that big, John Deere tractor and the pull behind disc and all that. But at the end of the day, you guys got to think that our ancestors going way back planted everything by hand. And I think that what it comes down to is the volume, or how big of a plot you want to plant, can be subsidized by having technology. So I can basically use technology to take out some hard work on my end. And if you want to plant, the plot that I planted was about a ½ acre to 3/4 of an acre. I weed eat it. I don't have a mower. I can't get a mower back in there. I hand weed eat all of it, hand seeded all of it. I pulled behind like a chain link fence to get all of the seed actually getting good and compacted. It was all hand work, and it sucked. It was really hard work, but I'm telling you, at the end of it, it was obviously worth it. So don't think that you have to have fancy equipment. Don't make excuses for it. If you've got a hand tool and you've got the will, it's 100% possible. And if you guys have questions about specific areas or maybe techniques, I mean, there's a lot of things in nature you can take advantage of. Frost seeding, planting it when the the ground is still frozen to allow the seed to kind of get sucked up once the ground starts to expand. Working the soil after a ton of rain like we've had this year, that ground's soft and roots are real easy to come out. So if you got to go out and pull some roots and rake, do whatever, get a little hand rototiller if you can carry one in back in there. Again, take advantage of soft soil. So there's things that you can do to take the burden off of yourself. But at the end of the day, you can totally have a really, really awesome plot with absolutely no heavy equipment or fancy technology or anything like that. So that's really the second thing that I wanted to talk about. Another thing, so this would be, I guess, your third thing, is one thing I learned is don't get fixated on having it look Instagram pretty. Like, what I mean by that is if you look at some of the fancier, you know, the TV shows and whatever, they show this big, lush field of clover and you don't see any weeds and are like, oh man, don't set that as your expectation, because deer are literally goats. I mean, I've sat there and I watched it time and time again. If you have a clover plot like I have, it's super lush. I've got awesome clovers that, you know, they'll come up and flower. Awesome alfalfa, chicory, super tall, 8-10 inches tall. And I watch I'll watch the deer walk right down the edge of the field, and it's just eating all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's eating branches of Russian olive. I mean, it's literally just eating whatever it can eat. So I think deer have a real wide palate, and there's certain things that, you know, whether it be eating certain brushes and all the different aspects of nature, they just browse around. I mean, they literally will browse around. So don't think that if you have weeds in your food plot that's some kind of how it'd be a deterrent to them, because they'll eat it. I mean, they're not that picky of an eater. I mean, they'll sit there and eat the clover and they'll eat whatever is there. So don't think that you have to have a perfectly green, weedless food plot. Go out there. Your main priority should be to go out there and put seed in the ground. And if it doesn't turn out, that's totally fine. Seed, in all reality, really isn't that expensive. You can plant a half acre or an acre for less than $100. I mean, time. So if you can want to factor all that in, but it's not that expensive. If it doesn't work out, do it again. Try something else, plant something else. But I can assure you that, generally speaking, you're going to do all right as long as you have relatively fertile soil. I'm from the Midwest in Illinois, so we got awesome, good, fertile soil. Maybe if you live in places that have a little bit more acidic soil, you may have to put a little bit more consideration into what you're going to plant and see what does best in those kinds of soil types. I can't speak to that. I'm kind of blessed on that side. You can stick whatever you want in the ground, it's going to grow. Which kind of takes me to my next point. Don't stress so much about the details of things. I think a lot of people that I talk to when I'm talking to about food plots, they think, well, I need to do soil tests and I need to spread lime and I need to do all this. And if you take seed and you put a wet paper towel and you put a seed in a wet paper towel and you roll it up and you give it, you know, a handful of days and you go up, it's going to germinate. It's going to start to grow in a wet paper towel. I mean, I spilt a bag of like seed in the back of my truck and there was corn growing in the back of the truck. I mean, there's no dirt. It's literally laying in the bed of the truck and it's literally growing. Okay, so don't think that it's rocket science to grow these things. At the end of the day, you put seed in the ground, it's either going to grow or it's not going to grow. More likely than not, it's going to grow. And if it doesn't, you may have some overarching soil issues. But don't stress the little things like that. You know, you've got enough going in your favor that, and you put some hard work in there, it's probably going to work out for you. And the last thing that I really want to talk about, and this is an aspect of planting a food plot I never even really thought about. It's a ton of fun, guys. I had a lot of fun, and I think that if you think that you're going to go out there and I'm planting this food plot to think I'm going to shoot a 200-inch deer, I didn't have that expectation. And I didn't go out there to think it's going to be just a barn burner. It's going to make, you know, shooting a deer just easy, and that biggest deer on your property is going to fall right in your lap. Because that's not really how it works. There's obviously a lot that goes into it. But the first thing that really kind of set in for me is when I planted my food plot, I was so nervous, I was so stressed out, and I was, you know, just consumed by what if this happens, what if this happens, I hope this doesn't happen. All these what ifs were just freaking me out, and finally I just planted it, and it turned out awesome. I mean, it really did. And to have the satisfaction of the first time I put a trail camera out there and I watched a doe take her 2 fawns out there, and their fawns literally just bedded up right in the clover, the mom was eating around. I mean, that to me is just totally awesome. I got to watch those 2 fawns grow up, end up being little button bucks. Through the winter, they came back almost every single day. I had a pair of button bucks. They sat there and I watched them fight a couple days, you know, just bump heads. And that's just really, really awesome to be able to have that kind of an experience in the outdoors and to be able to watch that kind of stuff. It's so fulfilling as an outdoorsman. You are a steward of the land, and it really just brings a totally different level of satisfaction to being out in the outdoors and just witnessing it all happen. So again, I hope you guys learned some stuff about that. If you have more specific questions about planting food plots, I can answer that. I planted clover because, in my opinion, I think clover is one of the easiest, best starter food plots because of the ability for it to take browsing pressure. So, you know, if a deer eats it, it'll grow back. That's the first thing. And then it's a perennial, so it will come back over and over and over again. You don't have to replant it every year. So because of the nature of where it was out on the property and the not being able to access it with, you know, big tillers and stuff, I wanted to plant it and have it last several years. And that's why I went with the clover. But again, any more specific questions about what to plant, when to plant it, shoot them my way, leave them in the comment sections. I would really kind of dove into the whole food plot science thing. So if you have any questions, let me know. Aside from that, if you're watching this, just plant it. Just go out there and get it done. I can assure you, you're going to look back, and 2 years from now, you're going to be like, you know what, I'm glad I did this. I mean, I'm really, really happy with it. So, again, God bless. Have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. And as always, you know, have a blessed time in the outdoors.